Story 1. The app that never logged out. 11:40 p.m. The app insisted he was still in my apartment even after the door had closed behind him. I should have felt relieved when he left. The door clicked, the elevator hummed, and the apartment settled into a soft downtown quiet that made me think everything was back to normal. But my phone didn't dim. His profile stayed there, still lit, still active in your unit. I told myself it was a sync issue, just a delayed ping, yet my chest stayed tight like I'd missed something in the room. My girlfriend leaned against me on the couch, our shoulders almost touching, the space between us warm in a way that hadn't cooled since the escort walked out. The thin trace of perfume recent pasado drifted from her skin, and the lamp's glow drew the outline of her mouth when she asked if the app ever lagged like that. She didn't move away. Neither did I. And the profile still pulsed on the screen. I told her I'd restart the app, but my hand hesitated. I adjusted her collar instead, fingertips brushing the warm fabric like I was fixing something that didn't need fixing. She watched me, not confused, not rejecting, just aware. There was a quiet timing of silence behind us, like the hallway had paused to listen. The screen refreshed. His icon didn't leave. She leaned in to see the screen, but her voice came too close, a low line of breath landing warm inside my ear before the words formed. It says he's still here. The sentence hung between us, not seductive or fearful, just too steady. And in the window's reflection, a third shape stood nearer the bedroom door, unmoving. I tried to rationalize it. He'd had dozens of bookings tonight. Maybe the servers were lagging or the geotag pinned the wrong unit. But the live motion preview blinking under his name wasn't a delay. It updated every few seconds. And every time it refreshed, the same still figure hovered by the bedroom door. We moved to the dining table for better light, and her knee brushed mine under the wood, didn't pull back. The contact left a thin ribbon of warmth that tightened my breath. The humidité du air settled around us, thicker than it had any right to be. When I checked the app again, the preview shifted just a hair, like whatever was in that frame had angled toward us. She said we should check the bedroom. When she stood, a loose strand of hair slipped across her cheek, and I brushed it aside with the tip of my finger. Her skin tightened under the touch, a quiet shiver that felt like a question. But the hallway light flickered behind her, sharp and brief. The app vibrated again, guest still active. We stopped at the edge of the hallway. Neither of us spoke. The silence had weight, and our breathing answered each other, slow, uneven, too close. It should have felt intimate. Instead, it felt watched. The bedroom's dim light didn't fall the way it should. A shape interrupted it, still and wrong. The app buzzed a second time. Motion detected. We edged toward the bedroom door, but the preview on my phone froze, the figure now centered in the doorway. I told her to stay behind me, though I wasn't sure what I'd do if someone actually stood there. The knob felt cold when I touched it, colder than the room. I pushed the door in. Nothing. Just our unmade sheets, and a faint dip on the mattress we hadn't left. She stepped past me, and her arm brushed mine, leaving a line of heat that steadied me more than it should have. A scent followed, sharp, recent, perfume that wasn't hers. The app refreshed again, slower, the loading ring dragging. When it cleared, it showed the figure standing exactly where I was. She moved in close, too close, and her breath touched the side of my ear, warm enough to tighten my neck. "It says he's requesting entry again," she whispered. But as the words landed, the same whisper echoed from behind us, lower, matching her cadence. I turned. Nothing. The phone pulsed bright. Guest requesting entry. Grant access. The bedroom door clicked by itself and eased open. My screen flashed. Guest accepted. I hadn't touched anything. She hadn't either. The mattress dipped again, slow and deliberate, as if someone had settled between us. And the same perfume from earlier slid across my pillow, too close to my mouth to be hers. Would you have checked who the app said was already in my room? By morning, his profile sat under frequent visitors, stamped with a location tag from inside our bed, at a time neither of us was awake. Story 2. The motel room with the extra key. 1:15 a.m., roadside motel. One key was missing from the rack but assigned to our room. I should have known something was wrong the moment we walked into the lobby. It was 1:15 a.m., the kind of hour when a roadside motel stops pretending it's respectable. My partner handled the check-in while I stood behind him, trying not to look as nervous as I felt. The clerk slid 3 keycards across the counter. One for me, one for him, and one he said was already checked out. Same room number. Same striped color. Same scuffed corner. A joke maybe. But the rack behind him had a gap exactly where ours should have been. We walked down the hallway with our shoulders almost touching, his perfume Resampasado lingering in the humidade du air. I brushed my arm against his in a half-teasing, half-steadying rocar. The loose que diseña a boca on him made me forget for a moment that the door to our room was slightly open, like someone hadn't bothered to close it all the way, waiting for the right moment to return. The escort arrived 10 minutes later. He introduced himself with a soft smile and a voice that carried quiet confidence. I adjusted the collar of his shirt, a casual fix, but my Ponta dos Dedos grazed the Tecido que Araña de Leave, still warm from his skin. He didn't pull back. Neither did my partner. For a second, all 3 of us stood close enough that our breaths tangled, and the keycard slot on the outside of the door blinked green, even though none of us were touching it. He stepped nearer to ask something. Nothing explicit, just a check-in, but he spoke close enough that his breath warmed the edge of my ear, each word slow, deliberate. My pelle arrepillada reacted before I could stop it. Before I answered, the lights flickered like someone had passed in front of the window, except the blinds were fully shut. We tried to pretend it was nothing. The kind of motel glitch you laugh off so nobody has to admit they're uneasy. We talked about boundaries, about keeping the night simple, about staying relaxed. But every now and then, one of us glanced at the door, at that silent slot that shouldn't have flashed. The escort sat on the edge of the bed, calm, like he'd seen stranger things in stranger rooms. I wanted to believe him. I really did. Under the small table, his knee brushed mine, a quiet rocar, steady and slower than it needed to be. There was a warmth along my neck that wasn't just nerves, and the air felt heavier, like the room was holding its breath with us. The moment lingered, until the keycard slot blinked green again, followed by the soft, patient press of someone trying the handle from outside. The escort rose first, maybe to show he wasn't rattled, maybe to check the peephole. As he moved past, a loose strand of my partner's hair fell forward, and I reached up without thinking, brushing it aside with the Ponta dos Dedos. The skin beneath Arepia, a tiny lift I felt more than saw. The moment stretched, and in that pause, I noticed the shadow under the door didn't match the hallway light. It stayed still. Too still. We held the room in a delicate timing de silencio, none of us willing to break it. You could hear our breathing more clearly than the AC unit. The escort whispered, "Who's out there?" But the question barely touched the walls. No footsteps. No retreat. Just the sense that someone was waiting on the other side. Someone who knew we were hesitating. The escort finally said he should go, claimed it was getting too strange even for him. We didn't argue. He slipped out with a quick nod, pulling the door shut behind him. The lock clicked, then clicked again as if someone else was testing it right after. My partner and I froze. The hallway stayed quiet, but the handle moved with a slow, practiced rhythm, like whoever stood there knew exactly how long we'd wait before panicking. We backed away from the door, and that's when I saw it on the bedspread. The extra key card, the one the clerk said was already checked out. It shouldn't have been there. It was warm, preseo leave de calor, the kind that stays on your skin after a touch. And the perfume Resampasado on it wasn't mine or my partner's, and didn't match the escort's either. My partner told me not to touch it again, but I'd already felt the heat lingering on my palm. He stepped close, closer than he needed to, his respiracio quent brushing my ear as he whispered, "Someone was in here." The words should have grounded me, but the echo didn't come from him. It came from behind us, from the corner with no light, repeating the rhythm of his voice a half second too late. The door latch snapped. Not forced, released. Metal lifted, link by link, the chain rising on its own like an invisible hand was drawing it up with perfect patience. The door opened a fraction, just enough for cold air, and something unseen, to slip through. Later, the motel manager swore the security footage showed 3 silhouettes entering the room, not 2. If you found that warm key on your bed, would you still try to sleep? Story 3. The sliding door he said was open 9:30 p.m., quiet beach house. Wet footprints appeared on the deck before any of us arrived. I should have noticed the slow, wet rhythm on the boards, like someone placing careful steps where no one should be. The place breathed salt air and soft darkness, and we were still laughing about the strange thrill of inviting him for the weekend. None of us had opened the sliding door yet, but the footprints were already pointed toward the glass. He arrived later with calm charm, standing close enough that our shoulders almost touched. A clean, fresh scent drifted off him, catching the warm ocean wind. When he glanced at the sliding door, the porch light traced his mouth in a line of gold. But in the reflection, the glass looked slightly open, even though we had locked it. I tried to reset the mood, adjusting his collar when he joked about the humidity. My fingertips brushed the warm fabric, just a light rasp of contact. The silence that followed had strange timing, like the room paused with us. And in the glass behind him, his reflection leaned toward someone who wasn't there. He answered something my partner said, but his voice landed too close to my ear, warm enough to slow my breath. A soft murmur lingered after he finished speaking, as if the air itself repeated him. Behind us, the sliding door clicked once, almost polite, like it was reacting to a presence outside our view. We tried to laugh it off with drinks, holding the night together with small jokes and forced ease. The ocean moved in steady breaths against the house. Still, he kept drifting toward the sliding door, tilting his head as if catching a sound beneath the tide. I told myself he was just performing nerves for effect. When we settled around the low table, his knee brushed mine under it and didn't move away. The warmth held on my skin longer than it should have, steady as the hush of the waves. In the corner of my eye, the door shivered again, one quick tremor like a knock muffled underwater. My partner stepped away for ice and he shifted closer. I moved a strand of hair from his face without thinking, and the skin beneath tightened in a soft shiver. But his eyes didn't follow my hand. They stayed fixed on the sliding door, where a faint smear of light shaped itself like someone standing just beyond the frame. None of us spoke after that. The room filled with shared breath, thick and slow. Even the waves dropped into silence as if the shore was listening with us. In the stillness, the reflection on the glass adjusted its posture. Not wind. Not us. Something taking its time. He stood abruptly, backing away from the couch like distance would make the image make sense. "There was someone behind you," he said, steady but soft. My partner tried to laugh, but it thinned in the air. "Not outside," he added. "In the reflection." And suddenly the room felt too small. He stepped past me, close enough that a warm trace stayed on my skin, a subtle perfume that shouldn't have lingered in the salty air. He stared at a faint smudge on the glass, shaped like resting fingertips. The porch sensor light blinked on outside, bright and empty. No shadow crossed it, not his, not ours, not anyone's. I stayed on the couch as he leaned near, breath warming the side of my neck, a quiet murmur brushing the air. The words felt delayed, as if an echo spoke first. It pointed at the sliding door. It was moving. Slow. Patient. Opening just a hand's width, like it wanted to see how much invitation we'd allow. Would you have checked the glass, or pretended you saw nothing? We locked the door after he left. Or we thought we did. The house went still around 3 a.m., the ocean pulling the night back into its rhythm. But at dawn, the living room floor held a thin drift of sand, soft and deliberate, leading from the sliding door to the couch. 3 sets of footprints. One was mine. One was my partner's. And the third was smaller, wetter, carrying the same scent that whispered behind my ear. Story 4. Messages from the wrong account. 12:04 a.m., bar parking lot, a message notification from a sender who was supposed to be offline. I'll start with the moment the night split. He had just walked away from our car, giving that quick, familiar smile, when my phone lit up with a message from his account. The timestamp didn't blink. The screen felt too bright, like someone exhaled on the back of my neck even though the windows were closed. We stayed there for a second, my partner leaning close enough that our shoulders almost touched. His scent still lingered from the bar, warm and clean. The phone's glow traced the shape of his mouth as the chat opened on its own, as if an unseen finger tapped it first. I tried to laugh it off, but the typing bubble came and went like a pulse. My partner shifted beside me and I reached to adjust his collar, just a quick fix. My fingertips grazed the warm fabric, soft enough to pretend it wasn't intentional. The silence between us had a strange timing, like someone else waited for our reaction. He told me to drive. Said it was nothing. But on the main road, the typing bubble returned and stayed. He leaned close, his voice brushing the edge of my ear, low and slow. He's still typing. The cabin air felt crowded, as if a third breath moved with ours. By the time we reached our building, the bubble vanished. His account showed offline. Normal. Routine. But the elevator ride felt staged, like the walls listened. I kept checking the screen, wanting a message and fearing the proof of it at the same time. Inside the apartment, the lights were too sharp. We sat on the couch without speaking, both watching the phone like it might start to breathe. When the typing bubble returned, my partner shifted, and his knee touched mine under the table. He didn't move away. Warm pressure settled there, slow and steady, as if someone approved of the closeness. He checked the hallway like expecting someone to step out. A loose strand of hair fell near his eye, and I brushed it aside, my fingertips grazing his skin. A tiny shiver ran through him, subtle and involuntary. Then the first image appeared, our living room, taken from an angle we'd never used. It wasn't from tonight. Or maybe it was. The shadows looked wrong, softer, like someone stood in a spot we couldn't see. Another image appeared, closer to the hallway. The room felt still, too aware. The air carried a faint dampness, as if someone had just stepped out of a shower neither of us took. We backed away from the phone. Another screenshot dropped, lower angle, closer to the bedroom door. That door had been shut since we got home. And the escort had already messaged from his place miles away. Something else was taking the photos. Or standing where the camera had been. My partner stepped closer, and a heat pressed against my back, sharp and deliberate, like someone had leaned in and hadn't fully left. His usual scent hovered near me, but underneath it lay something faint and unfamiliar. Then a location ping hit the thread, inside the bedroom. We stayed completely still. Another notification pulsed. My partner leaned in, his shoulder brushing mine, his breath warming my neck. But the whisper that followed wasn't his. He's still with you. The echo came from behind us, from the dark hallway. The final photo arrived. A shot of us on the couch, taken from directly behind. We didn't turn around. The phone folded the thread into a folder we'd never touched. Trusted contacts. The warmth on my neck didn't fade. The air behind us felt patient. Waiting. And all I could think was, if your phone insisted someone stayed, would you believe it? We never checked the bedroom. We still have it. And every morning the archive thread sits a little higher on the list, like something keeps opening it while we sleep. Story 5. The contract left on the table dusk in our apartment, and the printed contract had new pencil marks that neither of us remembered adding. The contract lay in the center of the dining table, 3 neat pages meant to keep everything safe and predictable. We'd written the rules together, agreed on every line. But now one of them, no staying overnight, was crossed out in a thin, shaky stroke that didn't belong to either of us. I leaned closer, shoulders brushing his, a soft rocar that raised a quiet shiver along my skin. The lamp behind us cast a pale bar of light across his mouth, still and tense. The apartment held its breath, waiting for one of us to claim the mark. I lifted the page, checking the pencil work. It didn't smudge. When I set it down again, his collar had twisted slightly and I reached to fix it. My knuckles grazed warm fabric, a scrape of cloth that felt almost deliberate. The silence between us thickened. He spoke too close. His breath warmed the edge of my ear as he whispered, "I didn't write that." The air caught the echo strangely, as if someone else had repeated the words from a darker corner of the room. We tried to rationalize everything: memory lapses, misunderstandings, the escort misreading the terms, but none of it fit. The handwriting wasn't mine, wasn't his, and the pencil didn't exist anywhere in the apartment. The floor felt like it shifted under us. We sat again, pretending to review the pages. Under the table, his knee brushed mine and didn't pull away. A faint perfume lingered around us, freshly passed though neither of us wore any. The contract waited with quiet patience. He leaned forward, scanning the margins. A loose strand of hair slid across his cheek and I reached to move it. My fingertips touched his skin lightly, enough to feel the rise of goosebumps ripple beneath. Our breathing wove together in a way that felt learned. We fell into a heavy quiet. The air clung to us with a damp closeness, the kind that made every inhale sound too loud. The pencil marks on the page seemed darker than before, as if settling into certainty. We retreated to the kitchen for space, but the contract stayed visible from there. Someone, or something, had nudged the top page out of alignment. Our argument about who touched it last felt thin. The apartment stayed perfectly still. When we walked back, heat lingered on my neck, longer than any breath should. His sleeve brushed my arm, feather light. A new line had appeared. He already agreed. The letters leaned forward, like the writer had been standing exactly where we stood now. We argued again, sharp and quick, before turning back toward the table. The contract had shifted off the edge, hanging like it was trying to fall. He stepped close behind me, warm breath brushing my ear as he whispered, "Did you hear that?" But the whisper echoed from behind us, softer and wrong. The contract fell, revealing a line scrawled on its underside. "Check the closet before you decide." If a contract changed itself, would you read the last line? We didn't open the closet. We pretended nothing was happening, pretended we weren't afraid of a piece of paper. But in the morning, the closet door stood slightly ajar, and the contract rested inside, propped against my shoes, its pages fluttering like something had just slipped past them. I haven't touched it since, and I can't tell if someone else finished writing it, or if it's waiting for me.